I'm not sure what's going on with my camera. Just to let you know.
We are live.
Okay. With that, we will call the August HPC meeting to order. Good morning. This meeting will now come to order. My name is Katie Hamilton, and I am the chair of the Durham Historic Preservation Commission. I'd wish to thank all applicants for their patience as we've worked to put new procedures in place for digital meetings. And we'd also like to thank the public in advance for their patience as we navigate the digital hearing process and platform. As always, this commission is a quasi-judicial board of record, and as such, all testimony will be recorded. Under the new procedure, this meeting will also be live streamed on the city's YouTube channel. Proceedings of the board are governed by the zoning laws as recorded. Before we begin today's evidentiary hearings, please note the steps we have taken to ensure that each party's due process rights are protected as we proceed in this remote platform. First, today's meeting will be conducted in accordance with the newly enacted statutes in Session Law 2020-3, which allow for remote meetings and quasi-judicial hearings during declarations of emergency. Second, each applicant on today's agenda was notified before being placed on the agenda that this meeting would be conducted using a remote electronic platform. Every applicant on today's agenda has consented to the board conducting the evidentiary hearing on their request using this remote platform. We will also confirm today at the start of each evidentiary hearing that the participants in the evidentiary hearing consent to the matter proceeding in this remote platform. If there's any objection to the matter proceeding in this remote platform, the case will be continued. Third, notice of this meeting has been provided to all applicants and the public in multiple ways, including signage posted on site, notification letters mailed to all adjacent property owners, informing recipients regarding the public remote platform, and a general announcement via the city's website, informing the public of the same. The notices for today's meeting advised the public on how to access the remote meeting as the meeting occurs, and individuals wishing to participate in today's evidentiary hearings were required to register prior to the meeting. Information about this registration requirement, along with information about how to sign up to participate, was included in both the mailed letters and the city's website. This information was included in the board's website as well. The public was advised to contact the city immediately in case of objection to the evidentiary hearings or to the remote meeting platform. No case is proceeding today in which the city has been contacted by an individual who has an objection to the remote meeting platform. All individuals participating in today's evidentiary hearings were also required to submit a copy of any presentation, document, exhibit, or other material they wish to submit at the evidentiary hearing prior to today's meeting. All materials that the city received from the participants for today's cases, as well as a copy of the city staff's presentations and documents, were posted online prior to this meeting on the Agenda Center. Finally, all individuals who registered to participate in an evidentiary hearing on today's agenda, as well as all city staff participants, were emailed a witness oath and consent to a remote hearing form prior to today's meeting. Any individuals planning to testify or submit evidence in an evidentiary hearing was notified that they must sign the oath prior to today's meeting. They also will reaffirm their oath on the record prior to each case today. Are there any members on this board that would have any conflicts of interest with regards to the cases before us today? And are there any requests for early dismissals?
I have a question about the conflict of interest. I used to live across the street from that house, well, across the street from that block. So, but that was 2 years ago. Okay. Is that an issue?
I don't think so, because it's not a financial thing. Krista, do you want to verify that?
Krista Kukar, City Attorney's Office. That's not a conflict of interest under the rules.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I do have a 10 o'clock hard deadline for 10 o'clock.
Thanks. Joseph, I almost called you chair. As the current chair of the Historic Preservation Commission, I'd like to remind everyone that our quasi-judicial hearings function similar to a court proceeding. Therefore, staff will first present an overview of the case, and then the applicant will have an opportunity to present their evidence. Opponents, if there are any, may then present their evidence, and the applicant may then present a rebuttal. Board members will refrain from questions or comments until each speaker has completed his or her presentation. Testimony should consist of facts each witness knows directly, not hearsay. Evidence already presented need not be repeated, and all witnesses who have signed up in advance will be given the opportunity to speak, and their testimony will be recorded. Then the board will vote on each case after the presentation of all evidence, pro and con, concerning each case. And all decisions of this board are subject to appeal to the Board of Adjustment and then to the Durham County Superior Court. And with that, Terry, can we please get a roll call of the members in attendance?
Sure. Vice Chair Bouchard. He was on here earlier, wasn't he? Okay.
Sorry.
Oh, okay. Commissioner Down,
Present.
Commissioner DeBerry. Commissioner Goolsby.
Here.
Oh, great. Chair Hamilton,
Here.
Commissioner Johnson,
Here.
Commissioner Jordan,
Here.
Commissioner Cracker is not available. Commissioner Waiters.
Present. However, Madam Chair, I'd like to acknowledge that I raised my hand.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. When it was time to acknowledge if you needed to have an early departure. I have a different request today. I must go to an appointment. I will check in once settled to see if the meeting is still going, but I have a hard departure, unfortunately, at 9:55.
Okay.
Thank
Sounds good,
you.
thanks. With that, it sounds like we need to finish this meeting by 9:55, you guys. Were there any adjustments to the agenda? All right, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes from, I guess we'll do two separate motions. First, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes from our June hearing from June 25th.
I'll move.
Commissioner Don, okay. Was that April who seconded?
Yes.
Having been moved in a second, and I get a roll call of the approval of the June minutes.
I have a question.
Yep.
And as I look at the minutes, I'm trying to figure out which minutes are. I'm looking at approval of summary minutes for June 25th and July 7th. So we're looking at all of the cases together.
No, we're not approving those July 7th.
Yeah, this is specific to the June 25th meeting.
Okay, so I just can't tell which is which from the, I'm sorry, maybe I'm a little dense.
If you click on the link to the June 25th one on the agenda center,
Okay.
top it'll say June 25th, 9 a.m. virtual meeting.
Okay, please go ahead. I'll try to figure out because I do have a question about the wording in one of the cases, and I just can't tell whether it's from the probably the 5th or the 7th.
Which case?
COA 2000035 318 Liberty Street.
That's
July.
July.
And that's what we're doing now?
Nope.
Okay. All right, so please go ahead. Please proceed.
Was there any other discussion of the approval of the minutes for June? No? Okay. Terry, can you do a roll call, please?
Yes. Commissioner Johnson,
Present. I'm sorry.
Commissioner Waiters,
Approve.
okay. Commissioner Dayan,
Approve.
Commissioner Jordan,
Yes.
Chair Hamilton,
Yes.
Vice Chair Bashard,
Yes.
Commissioner Garrett's not here. Commissioner Goolsby.
Yeah.
7-0, motion passes.
Thank you. And now we'll review the July meeting minutes. Commissioner Jordan, you had a exception to their approval.
Not an exception, just a wording issue in that particular case. And I'm actually looking at the draft minutes, and I guess it's on page 5
Mhm.
under that case. Page 5, numeral 5. And asking for some clarification on what that means.
We had discussed the material at the ground level elevation. Excuse me, I'm forgetting which elevation of the building. It was the front elevation. I can't remember what side it faced, but we had discussed that by the entrance and the glazing, that there was a desire to have brick on either side at that first floor level, at that entrance floor level.
Well, I guess my question is, what is a material of brick? That's all I'm asking. So if that's the way it's stated or normally stated, then I guess I'm good with it. It just didn't seem to make sense to me.
I mean, just write brick will be used.
Yeah. Like a material of brick. You know, I'm just not.
It's an awkward phrasing. Okay.
That's it. Only correction. That's it. Otherwise, I'm good.
So just put brick. Okay, gotcha. I'll change it.
Okay.
Grace Smith with the planning department. Just wanted to say the staff is okay with that, and we'll be sure that the minutes are updated per Ms. Elliott's confirmation just now.
Okay. So was that the only point of discussion? Jonathan?
So just a question, because we already approved these minutes last meeting, do we have to do anything to reverse that before we approve it now?
The ones for July?
No, in July, in these minutes, we approved the June minutes.
Yeah.
Correct. So we probably need to make a note. The staff, Ms. Elliott and I can put a note in there explaining that we, so for everybody's edification, we took a motion to approve minutes like the last meeting, and the board approved the minutes, but they had actually not seen the minutes. And Mr. Dan was on the ball and caught that error after the fact. So we will make some kind of adjustment in the minutes to reflect that, if that's okay with the commission and the attorney.
Yeah, that's not what I meant, just to make sure that this approval is maybe reapproved in the next meeting. Like we don't have to go. I don't think
we can make that out. We can square all that away. I know what you're saying. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you for that. Mhm.
Okay. So we need a motion to approve these minutes with the changes as outlined by Commissioner Jordan to change the wording of the brick, and then also the notes by Commissioner Dan about our previously improperly approving minutes that we did not have.
So would you like a motion to approve the July 7th minutes now?
Yeah, I think the minutes as amended.
Right.
Yeah.
So moved.
Okay. So,
Who's second?
Second, Jonathan.
Big Sean.
Wanda.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Terry, can we please get a roll call of the
Sure.
members of the roll?
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Waiters, Commissioner Waiters,
Commissioner Waiters approve.
okay. Commissioner Down,
Approve.
Commissioner Jordan,
Yes.
Chair Hamilton,
Approve.
Vice Chair Bouchard,
Yes.
Commissioner Goolsby.
Yeah.
Motion passes 7-0.
Okay, thank you. And with that, Madam Clerk, can we please have the swearing in of the staff for all hearings being heard today, both Keegan and Bo, I think.
Okay. Do you members of staff and citizens swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give and the public hearing proceedings for today's cases is the truth by your own knowledge, information, or belief?
Yeah, I do.
Grace Smith, I do.
Okay, and with that, we can now begin our first hearing of the morning. We'll be beginning with case COA 2000041, 09 Virginia Avenue, demolition of accessory structure. Before we hear from staff, is there any one of our commissioners may have a conflict of interest in this case, other than what Jonathan had noted earlier? Nope. Okay. Hearing none, let us please proceed. Terry, can you please swear in the applicant on this?
Yes. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in the public hearing proceeding for today's cases is the truth by your own knowledge, information, or belief?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And then, Mr. Evans, can you also please confirm that you have agreed to this digital platform of this meeting?
Yes.
Thank you. And now we can proceed with the staff report. I think this one is Keegan's. Keegan, can you please present the case?
Yes. Keegan Sacapani, Planning Department. This is case number COA 2000041. The applicant and owner are Kelly and Evan Travis. This is at 1209 Virginia Avenue on the west side of Virginia Avenue between West Club and Woodrow. This is a contributing structure, both the primary and accessory structure contributing in the Watts Hill and Dale Historic District. The proposal is associated with this application is a demolition, roof walls, and foundation of the accessory structure. And with that, I would like to introduce the staff report into the record and invite the applicant to speak.
Thank you. I mean, not a whole lot to add from what is contained in the application. The accessory structure is in sort of disrepair. It's not sized appropriately for sort of modern use. You can't park a car in it. And I think we looked into some options in terms of renovating, moving the structure to save it, but it just didn't sort of cost prohibitive for what you would have when you were finished in terms of building another foundation and moving or doing renovations would be significant enough that you really wouldn't have any historic character of the existing garage, accessory structure. I will note too, I mean, while it is a contributing structure, there's no real, architectural features that remain on the structure that would, I mean, to me, seem to really contribute any value to the historic district. It has vinyl siding, and there's no real other sort of architectural details that are of significance. So I don't know. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. There were no other registered speakers on this case. Was there anyone else in attendance who wanted to speak specifically to the demolition of this structure?
Jonathan?
Yeah, Jonathan.
Jonathan Down. So the only thing that we did get, and I think we need to note that I got at least, and I saw a couple more on the email, an email about this from one of the residents in the neighborhood.
So that's to the next case. It's the same property, but it has.
Right. Okay.
So yeah, we'll go over that next one. But yeah.
Okay.
Did any of the commissioners have any questions for the applicant specific to the demolition of the existing structure on site? Matt?
Let's start here. Mr. Travis, could you please provide a little bit more detail about the efforts you undertook to investigate the possibility of relocating the structure? You had mentioned that during your opening remarks. I'd just like to hear a little bit more detail about what you actually did, who you actually contacted, and what you found out.
Yeah, I mean, we had just recently been through, construction of an addition to the house that was previously approved here. So talked with the general contractor who did the work there just on, sort of costs and options for renovating the existing garage. Again, seemed cost prohibitive. I have been in touch in the past with a house mover looking at, moving a different structure. And, I think it, while it wasn't specific to this, I mean, the cost of, moving a structure, this isn't a large structure, but still it just costs, the cost of moving a structure. And, I think we would be willing to donate it to someone else, but I think by the time that they paid to move it, it would be not worth what they would have if they moved it to a different property. So those were the sort of main two, things that we did to investigate whether it would be worth, renovating it. And the answer was no, due to cost and sort of, by the time you were finished, like you wouldn't really have any, barely anything left of the original structure. And then the moving, while it wasn't specific to this, we talked to a house mover and the cost of moving a structure of this size and, would just be, and you'd have to build a foundation once you got there, all those things just made it cost prohibitive. You could build a similar structure for cheaper than you could move this.
We actually provided a price for moving it, out of curiosity?
That's what I said. It wasn't specific to this, but it was like $20,000 to $50,000, depending on the distance it was going to be moved. And so I think at a minimum, you're talking about $20,000, and it's up from there depending on the circumstances.
Thank you.
Did any other commissioners have any questions?
Well, I do about the siding. I saw that, sorry, Jonathan again. You wrote in your summary that it was vinyl. And somewhere I saw German German
Yeah,
siding.
so in the I don't know what the historic survey, when they did the historic designation from the neighborhood, they noted that it's German siding, currently has vinyl over top of whatever's underneath. My assumption would be that's the German siding is underneath, but it's currently clad in vinyl. That's previous to us being the owners, both of those things. I will say, I mean, you can see from the inside, I guess I can't be 100% that that's what would be on the outside, but the inside shows significant rot. I can't remember. I think there are some pictures that show that. But there's some, significant deterioration to that siding that you can see from the inside of the garage looking out.
Did any other commissioners have questions for the applicant? Okay. Mr. Travis, would there be a hardship for you if we did impose a 365-day delay in this demolition?
I mean, I guess it depends on your definition of hardship. I mean, yeah, I mean, I think there would be, some hardship in terms of, waiting 365 days to do something. But, in terms of a financial hardship, I don't think that that would necessarily be, a terrible hardship. But yes, I mean, I think there would be a hardship.
And any other commissioners have questions for the applicant in regards to this case?
Can we ask staff too now or wait?
So I think if there's nothing else for the applicant, we can close the public hearing because no one else has signed up to testify, and we can start having discussions. So with that, thanks, Mr. Travis. We will begin internal deliberations. Yeah, Jonathan, do you want to kick us off?
Well, it's just, it's very minor. It's a description of the house, so less important, but the William Alley house, it has a question mark under the replacement for the wrought iron railing. I don't know why there's a question mark there. Above. Yeah.
That is, as I recall, copied verbatim from the National Register nomination. So that's not an editorial note. That question mark is in there already. I don't know what the significance of it is.
Thank you. The second question that I have, and I think that's really the last one, is what constitute a entrance to for a modern vehicle? That like, how do we know that a modern vehicle can or cannot enter the garage?
I believe they made that judgment based on the dimensions of the structure. I can't remember whether it was about the length or the width of the opening, but either way, based on the assumptions we make about the size of a car that you're going to park in a parking space, it was insufficient space, whether the depth was too short or whether the width of the opening was too narrow.
Thank you.
Okay.
Katie, back me up here. This is Andy Goolsby. What do we work to? We work for a compact space, 7.5 feet wide by 15 deep, and then for a normal space, 8.5 feet by 18 feet long. Does that sound right?
Yeah, I mean, 8.5 is allowable in Durham, but that's still pretty narrow. However, yeah,
I wouldn't park my Suburban in it.
Yeah.
So what are the dimensions here, if that's the case?
So it looks like I'm gonna screen share the dimensions, the plot plan they gave me. It looks like the dimensions are about 18.5 feet, both width and depth, but the opening is less than half of that front. So that may have been, it might not be 8.5, and that might have been what they flagged. Or they might have been wanting a standard parking space instead of compact. So the 18.4 foot depth is insufficient.
Thank you.
Commissioner Jordan, you have your hand.
Yes. I'm actually trying to find out, Jonathan, is there a reason you're asking the question? Because from what I understand, the only thing that is that question is whether we would hold up for any period of time. So if none of this is oriented towards.
It is, because I see a hardship. I really see a hardship if they have a garage in their backyard and they can't use it, and they're going to wait the three. What are we? Why would we delay anything?
Yeah, no. I'm agreeing. Yeah, I agree with that. That's what I'm saying. We don't even have to ask the question if we don't feel there needs to be a delay. And I'm not sure. Is anyone, Madam Chair, is anyone suggesting that there might be a reason for delay?
I don't think that's been suggested.
Yeah, so I'm still agreeing with you, Jonathan, that at this point, if there's no concern that there might be something else that could be done to save the structure, that there are materials that we want to ask the applicant to preserve and probably pass on. If there's nothing of that nature, then I would say we move forward to approve it with no delay.
Well, to the materials part, I would, because that neighborhood has a lot of German siding. And
Okay.
if this is just a courtesy ask, if you have the German siding, if you can, in the listserv of the neighborhood, see if anybody needs it for their repairs, I think that could be really, or Commissioner Johnson can help out with other areas that maybe would need it too.
Are there any
Absolutely.
commissioners who want to impose a delay?
Not in my case, no.
Okay. April, you were going to start speaking to Jonathan's comment.
I was just agreeing with Jonathan that if the owners want to offer materials to be salvaged, I could send that information out in a listserv. But yes, I can assist with that. But I don't think that we should delay.
Okay. Okay, so it seems that we don't feel that it has the historical significance to warrant a delay based on the criteria presented before us today.
That is not what I said. I don't think I didn't say that it doesn't have historical significance. I don't think we should delay because I don't think he has it has no usage and it's deteriorating, but historical significance is not. I don't think that's what, at least I said.
Okay, so Jonathan thinks it meets the hardship criteria because it's not a usable structure currently.
Thank you.
And Madam Chair, my hand function is not as good as my mouth function. So if I can, I don't think it makes a difference whether we find, that's not our purview now. Under the rules, we have 3 things that we can do. We're not here to determine whether, I mean, we may make a case for something on the base of its historic significance, but they already have the permission to demolish the structure. So if we want to hold it up, then we can present those, but I don't want to, I can't necessarily go into any other justifications for whether it should be not demolished or demolished. That's there. So I would just urge us to move forward as you are trying to do. Thank you.
Yeah, okay. With that, was there any other discussion that any commissioners felt needed? Okay. Hearing none, can we hear a recommendation from staff?
Yeah, I would recommend moving forward with the demolition without delay. I know a lot of what they're proposing is kind of in relation to COA 2000044, but as far as the demolition itself, it is, as you said, a structure that they can't use right now and one that's deteriorating. So I would recommend moving forward.
With that, can I hear a possible motion?
I'll move. Go ahead, Jonathan.
No, you go.
Okay. Thank you. The Durham Historic Preservation Commission finds that in the case COA 2000041, 1209 Virginia Avenue, demolition of accessory structure. The applicant is proposing to demolish a contributing primary structure dating from the 1940s, post-dating the 1920s primary structure. The commission has determined the accessory structure to lack sufficient historical value or structural integrity to preserve it. The applicant has submitted COA 2000044 or new construction of an accessory structure at a different location on site. The area vacated by the original accessory structure will be stabilized with grass. Therefore, in accordance with UDO requirements and North Carolina General Statutes, Chapter 160A, Section 400.14, the COA for the proposed demolition is approved without a delay.
Can I hear?
Second.
I think Jonathan got it first.
Oh, okay.
You can have it.
April can have it for the record. Terry, can I hear a roll call vote on this, please?
Yes. Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Waiters,
Commissioner Waiters approval.
Commissioner Dayon,
Approve.
Commissioner Jordan,
Approve.
Chair Hamilton,
Approve.
Vice Chair Bouchard,
Yes.
Commissioner Goolsby.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. And thank you, Keegan, for doing a good job on that application.
Thank you.
With that, we will move on to our next COA hearing, which is COA case 2000044, 1209 Virginia Avenue, new accessory structure. Before we hear from staff, I do want to acknowledge that all of the commissioners did get an email in opposition to this case. As required, no ex parte communication should have been resulted from that email. If any has, please let us know now. But as always, we're only allowed to hear evidence as presented in the public case on the record. So if anyone had any ex parte communication on this, can you let us know? Okay. Hearing none. With that, we will swear in the witnesses. Chris, do we need to swear in the witnesses separate on this case, even though it's the same applicant from the last case?
Yes.
Okay. Terry, can you please swear in Mr. Travis on this case?
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in the public hearing proceeding for today's case is the truth by your own knowledge, information, or belief?
Yes.
Thank
And
you.
then Miss Doyle, can you also affirm?
Yes.
All right, and then Mr. Travis, can you confirm that you have consented to the digital hearing of this case today?
Yes.
And then Ms. Doyle, can you confirm that you have consented to the digital hearing today?
Yes.
Great, thank you. And with that, we will hear from staff. Bo, can you please present the staff report? Bo, can you unmute?
Yeah, that would be helpful. Bo Dobrinsky with the Planning Department, COA 2044. This project is located at 1209 Virginia Ave, west side of Virginia, just north of Club Boulevard. The zoning is residential suburban, and this is a contributing property in the Watson-Lawndale Local Historic District. The applicants are Kelly and Evan Travis. It was associated with a previously discussed COA 2041 for the demolition of the existing accessory structure. This application, the COA, would be for a new accessory structure immediately to the rear of the primary structure, so a slight relocation. There will be limited site work as the 24/18 garage with the second story loft would be constructed adjacent to the existing driveway. I would like to introduce the staff report and all of the attachments into the record. And at this time, I'd invite the applicant to state their case for approval.
Yeah, thank you. Again, not much to add to the application. In the interest of time, I think, most of the relevant details are included there. We did, have a chance to talk with Dot, open to her concerns, happy to discuss that and any other questions that may, come up from the committee members.
Okay, were there any questions for the applicant before we hear from the opponent? All right, hearing no questions for the applicant currently. Ms. Doyle, can you present your case?
Certainly. Thank you for hearing from me, and I apologize. I did not realize that I could not write to the commissioners. I'm used to doing the Planning Commission and the City Council where you can write. So I did not intend to try to unduly influence anybody. But when you just said the dimensions, I think you said 24/18, but I think the plans say 20/28. Is that 24/28? I think that's correct. Okay, Evan is nodding his head yes. Okay, great. Thank you. I think the work that Evan and Kelly have done on their home previously really has improved the nature of that home. I think it makes it a nicer contributing property in the historic district. I live at 2311 Woodrow Street, which is around the corner. And my concern is primarily about height and being proportional to some of the nearby homes. In particular, now I have to go look at what I said here, so I know what those addresses are. In particular, the 1209 Virginia, 1211 Virginia, which is next to the Travis's home, and the one that's in their backyard, which is 2305 Woodrow. Both of those are pretty small homes. And I do have a concern about the height of the proposal. The proposal says 1.5 stories, and I'm just not familiar enough to know exactly what the definition of 1.5 stories is. It seems like it could be enough to be two stories. if it's 25 feet. So when I talked with Evan the other day, he said that they were thinking it could be up to 25 feet. And I think the city, when they do this, they, if the peak looks like this, the definition of how tall something is the median, which is a bit of a cheat. If you're actually looking at how tall something is. And so to me, 25 feet, if it's actually to the peak, even that's pretty tall. And I have a concern that proportional to those other two properties. So there are two large homes near the Travis property that face Club Boulevard. And so, it's not out of proportion with those homes. It is to the ones that are on the back of his property or the side of his property. And those are the ones that are closer to this new construction. And so if there was a commitment that, at the peak, the ridge line, it was, I'd like to say 18, but I could go with 20 as a maximum height. I would have no objection because I think that would just bring it down. I submitted some pictures that one was a picture of across the street from Evan and Kelly is, okay, that's the house that's right behind the Travis home. That's the house, okay. Great. All right, so that's the home that's right behind and their backyard, which is really shallow. It's about that's a really shallow lot. It's only I think it's 95 feet deep. And the backyard is about 40 feet. And the reason that you're not hearing from those people, and I have no idea, that's the front of that same house that has had some work done on it. That's a recent picture. The other picture was the tax property picture. That's the tax property picture. The White House, they've painted and have fixed it up. They sold that property. And interestingly, the people who own that house right this minute have sold it, and they moved out about 3 days before we got the letter saying that this hearing was happening. And the new person, of course, doesn't know about it necessarily because she doesn't own it anymore. She doesn't own it yet. So that's the property that is, I think, the most impacted by the new structure. It's a really short house. And if I understood correctly, when I talked with Evan the other day, where the garage is going to be moved to, it's going to be a little bit closer to their main property, their main structure, which then puts it almost like right behind this house. The other picture that I had started to talk about was that's the house that's right next to it. And that the backyard there sort of overlaps a little bit where the garage would be. And that is also not a very tall property. And then across the street, and I just took a picture of that one yesterday, just to sort of show what another garage looks like in the neighborhood. So if that's possible to show that one that's across the street. Yeah. And it's hard to tell. That's also sort of a 1 story. It might be 1.5 in the front house, and the garage that's behind it. It's not as, not in very great shape, but that's one of the larger garages in our neighborhood, in the historic district. And it's, I don't believe it's 25 feet tall. So just to sort of get some sense of, what's going on in around that. So that's my concern, has to do with the proportionality of the nearby structures and consistency with the historic district. And if there was a commitment that it wouldn't be over 20 feet, I would be perfectly happy.
Thank you, Ms. Doyle. Mr. Travis, did you have a rebuttal or a response to Ms. Doyle's?
Yeah, no, I mean, we had a conversation with Ms. Doyle. Totally understand the concern. I think we have the desire to be neighborly to the other folks in the neighborhood, and no intention to do anything that would be negative. I think no intention to be underhanded in terms of doing this while nobody knows, while the new homeowner doesn't know about it. you know, and I think we have, and I expressed this to Dot, have a willingness to hear sort of ideas around, you know, the, you know, mitigating the concern around the height of the structure. I think I expressed this to Dot, but I mean, I think we put this in as sort of the, you know, this is as tall as it could be, right? And so my thought is you get it approved for this, and then if we ended up, I mean, and I don't know if that's okay or not, but it seems like no one would be, if we got approved for sort of the max height, no one would be upset if it ended up being shorter. And so I would be, I would be open to, you know, something of that. I think that we have, since talking to Dot, have thought through some options in terms of things we could do to make it shorter. I'm not sure in terms of the historic commission whether or not the height of the structure, so long as it's subordinate to the main house, is really, and this is a question more than anything, I don't know that it's in the purview of the historic commission to decide what the height of the structure can be. You know, so I mean, you know, happy to talk through that, you know, have other questions from other folks. You know, I mean, it is a quasi downtownish neighborhood. The houses are going to be close together. And to the extent that, you know, I will also note, I mean, the two properties that are directly adjacent to ours that are one-story structures are not in the historic district. So, you know, while it obviously affects those properties, it, you know, they're not part of the, you know, historic character of the neighborhood. And so as it relates to, you know, the specific historic nature and, you know, consistency of the neighborhood, you know, from a historic perspective, I'm not sure how much you weigh into that conversation, the, you know, how it, I don't know that you would necessarily be able to, you know, see it over top of the other house. You know, I mean, it obviously would affect them. It would affect the feel of their backyard. We're sensitive to that. You know, happy to talk through that, but, you know, strictly on the grounds that we're seeking approval, I'm not sure that, you know, the height of the structure or how it affects those other houses are, you know, specifically relevant to the historic approval. But, and I don't know to what extent we can approve a max height and then, you know, have an allowance for us to make it shorter, you know, as we go through the permitting process and more design, you know, later down the road.
So I guess my first response is we can definitely do a maximum height that is allowable. And then did any commissioners have questions for the applicant or the opponent that they wanted to touch on? Jonathan.
From what I see, you're requesting a 1.5 story accessory dwelling. Why do you have the first floor shorter than the second in a 1.5 story dwelling or building structure?
Yeah, and you know, and I'm not sure, I can't recall exactly, but I would say that the first story is not shorter than the second story in terms of height of ceiling. So, you know, it's a 9-foot, you know, ceiling height on the first floor where the cars would park in the garage. And I guess maybe this is to Dot's point, it's not exactly 1.5 stories. Maybe it should have said 2 stories, I guess. I don't know. You know, the second story height as drawn is 8 feet. So a shorter ceiling height, but given the pitch of the roof, if you're 8 feet on the edges, it goes up another 5.5, almost 6 feet to the peak of the ridge. And as she indicated, so if you see on this, the dotted line, I mean, you know, obviously these are hand drawn. So, but, you see the dotted line above the window, that's the second story ceiling height. The second dotted line would be the top of the rafters, and then the ceiling joist, and then the rafters would sit on there and go to the peak of the roof. And so you gain another, and, part of this was the, sort of shallower or the steeper A-frame mirrors the existing A on the side of the house. We were trying to sort of echo the, historic roof line with the steeper roof, and then have the flatter roof to sort of mitigate this, the height. If you put that, sort of original, more consistent with the A on the house on top of the walls, then you'd have an even taller structure. So we were trying to flatten out the roof and make it, shorter, but anyway, I don't know if that answers your question, but 9-foot ceiling height on the first floor, 8 feet on the second floor, but where it looks like it's taller is basically because of the roof.
So it's actually a 2-story building.
Yeah, I think that's probably a fair characterization, and apologies if I made a mistake there.
What's the height of the existing primary structure?
It's a good question. I don't know exactly. I think we talked with staff a little bit about that, but I think it's about 30 feet, total. So as drawn, this would be a little more than 5 feet shorter than the existing structure.
And this is Vice Chair Bouchard. Mr. Travis, what is the best estimate of the height of this accessory structure as hand drawn? Is it 25? Is it less than 25?
Yeah, it's 24 and 9 inches. I think we provided an updated sketch, but I guess it didn't make it in here, and apologize for not doing that in the first, sort of version of this. But yeah, so 24/9 and approximately 25 feet.
That to the peak of the roof?
That's to the peak. Yeah, and the estimate of 30 on the existing house is also to the peak.
Were there other questions from commissioners? Andy?
Got one. Just to confirm, Ms. Doyle, the houses that you showed, and Travis, Mr. Travis, if you would lend into this too, of the houses that were shown of smaller scale, are any of them in the historic district?
No, sir, they are not. The historic district does not include any of the homes on Woodrow Street. The house that has that I showed that had the garage is across the street and is on Virginia, and that is in the historic district.
Okay, I think that's where I was getting confused. Thank you.
Okay.
And I'm not sure, Dot, is the house with the garage, is it a single story home, or is it? I can't remember off the top of it. I think it's 1 story.
I need you to look out the window. I think it's a single story home. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
The front looks like the front has that makes it look like it's a 1.5, but I don't think there's I don't know well enough to know what's upstairs, if they have it upstairs.
Yeah, not that this is necessarily here or there, but I do think the garage might be taller than, it's as tall as the house, and it sits a half story below the house. So the lot slopes down, and even in the picture you can see there's a significant crawl space underneath the house, and so where the garage is sitting from strictly a height standpoint of the house, it's probably taller than the existing house. But that's not really that relevant, I guess. But
Are there any other questions for the applicant or opponent?
Bo Dobrinsky, staff. I just want to make a couple of clarifications. One is the height would be measured to the midpoint typically per the Unified Development Ordinance, and that 25 feet is the maximum for the accessory structure in this district. Obviously, you could impose a more stringent, I just wanted to clarify.
Thanks. So, are there any other questions or comments before we get into internal deliberation? Are there any other questions for the applicant or opponent? All right, hearing none, we're going to close the public hearing on this and have internal discussion. Was there anybody who has strong opinions on this case that wanted to be heard first?
So Commissioner Bouchard, I'll say just a few things. I am sensitive to the opponent's comments, but that being said, the criteria that I think govern are going to be L2 and L3, excuse me, L2 and L3B. L2 does require that the accessory structure not be incongruous with the overall character of historic structure or the district. If I understand correctly, what we heard from the testimony was that the homes on the other side of this house are not in historic district. So I'm not sure how that would apply to our considerations. And then 3B requires that the new accessory structure be clearly subordinate to the primary structure. And it sounds like that's been satisfied. And what's interesting about the question of the height of the structure is on page 44 of our local review criteria, there is a picture of what appears to be a 2-story garage structure described as a new accessory structure in the Watts-Hillendale district. So, it appears that there is precedent for this structure. I mean, obviously I can't tell how tall this particular structure is in this picture, but I wouldn't have a problem with a motion that put a cap on the height of the structure, whether that's 25 feet, the 24.9 that was provided by way of Mr. Travis's testimony. To my eyes, the criteria have been satisfied here, and it's a matter of how we might want to rewrite the suggested motion, which currently makes reference to 1.5 stories in height. And I think we should probably put an actual height limitation.
I would also argue to change it to 2 stories because 1.5 story is not what we're having here, unless I'm wrong, and this may be just that.
No, I think I agree that there's 2 habitable stories based on the sketches and having a maximum height that clearly defines it as subordinate to the existing structure is a reasonable modification. Was there anybody else who had or concerns?
Commissioner Bouchard again. Jonathan, do you think it makes more sense for the motion to make reference to 2.5 stories or to an actual height limitation?
Both. And I do want to say thank you to Dodd as well. We're working according to guidelines that we have to adhere to. Your care for the neighborhood is very appreciated, and I hope that everybody takes the same care and shows and takes their time to express it. Thank you.
Thank you. So Matt, do you?
And I don't know. I mean, I guess, sorry but just a question, and I don't know if this affects any motion at all, but in just to clarify, as we said, I mean, setting a max height, does that give us the flexibility to make it shorter, post approval? So to Jonathan's point, I mean, if we did want to go from a true 2-story to a 1.5 story. So take the, outside wall from 8 to 5 or 8 to 3 or, whatever we might do. Would the approval provide us the flexibility to do that, post approval?
Well, this is Vice Chair Bouchard again. I mean, subject to what Bo and Krista might have to say on the subject. I mean, I think the intention would be for us to draft the motion in such a way that we would state that the structure will be 2 stories in height, no greater than 24 feet 9 inches, which would, I think, provide the requisite flexibility to go lower than 24 feet 9 inches.
Yeah, Bo Dobrinsky with staff. 2 comments. One, for enforceability's sake, please include a height and not necessarily, as you just did, don't just say 2 stories. And then the other piece is, yes, I think a minor deviation or minor reduction could be approved. You may be subject to a minor COA for that, but.
Sorry. Mute.
I'm sorry, Chair Hamilton, Grace Smith here with the Planning Department. If the height were to be somewhat less than what's specified in the motion, because the motion can be up to a certain amount, then when the drawings and the final COA is stamped, we could do a field adjustment once the building is constructed if it comes in a few feet less at the time of construction. So staff can handle that on our end. So I was just basically affirming what Mr. Dobrinsky had said.
I would like to add to that also, the height is, I agree that the height is more important than the number of levels, just because the wording says 1.5 story. I didn't want that to stay. The height, we had the one city center that talked about stories, and then the height changed a little bit afterwards. So height is much more important in our perspective.
I wanted to acknowledge that Ms. Doyle did mention that one of the house at 1211 is in the historic district. So if that, I don't know that has bearing on our criteria based on what we're allowed to review, Ms. Doyle, but we'll take that in consideration as we look at this further.
I just wanted to say it since I was under oath and I had misspoke.
Thank you very much. Okay. Matt, do you feel comfortable? I feel like you've been drafting a motion. Do you feel comfortable?
Yeah, I've got something subject to staff recommendation.
All right. So can we get a recommendation from staff, please?
So staff would recommend the approval of COA 2044 with the conditions listed in the staff report and the modified motion that you discussed.
Okay, Vice Chair Bouchard, with a motion, the Durham Historic Preservation Commission finds that in the case COA 2000044, 1209 Virginia Avenue, new construction of accessory structure. The applicant is proposing a new accessory structure on a contributing property. The structure will measure 24 feet by 28 feet in footprint and shall be no greater in height than 24 feet 9 inches. It will be constructed with smooth cementitious fiberboard siding, wood composite trim, 6/6 double hung wood windows, 6 light over 2 panel fiberglass entry doors, a steel construction garage door with wood appearance, a brick veneer over concrete masonry unit, CMU foundation, and asphalt roof shingles. Therefore, the conclusion of law is that the proposed accessory structure is consistent with the historic character and qualities of the historic district and are consistent with the historic properties local review criteria, specifically those listed in the staff report. And the Durham Historic Preservation Commission approves the certificate of appropriateness for case COA 2000044, 1209 Virginia Avenue, new construction of accessory structure with the following conditions. 1, the improvements shall be substantially consistent with the plans and testimony presented to the commission at this commission hearing and attached to the COA. 2, the improvements may require additional approvals from other city or county departments or state or local agencies. The applicant is responsible for obtaining all required approvals relating to building construction, site work, and work in the right of way. And 3, a compliance inspection shall be performed immediately upon completion of the work approved herein.
Can I get a second?
A second.
Thank you. Terry, can you please get a roll call vote?
Yes. Commissioner Johnson,
Yay.
Commissioner Dan,
Approve.
Chair Hamilton,
Yay.
Vice Chair Bouchard,
Yes.
and Commissioner Goolsby.
Yeah.
And thank you, Terry. And we need to acknowledge, I think, that both Commissioner Jordan and Commissioner Waiters had to leave in the middle of that hearing.
Yes.
Can you make a note of that? Okay.
And motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Travis. That is the end of our public hearings for today. I don't believe we had any old business or new business on the agenda. Was there anything else commissioners or staff needed?
I guess I'm just a little curious to know what we might have on the docket for September for planning purposes. Do we have a roster of cases?
Right now, we just have one case scheduled. It was a case that was not quite ready for this month, but it will be ready for next month.
Okay.
Thanks, Grace.
Thanks, Grace.
With that, I think we can close our hearing for today. Thanks. Dropping off of these digital meetings is always so awkward, but
Well, I've been the motion guy today. Should I make a motion to adjourn?
yeah, that'd be great.
Motion to adjourn.
Yay. Y'all have a good one.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Hi, everybody.
Bye-bye. Thank you.